It didn't hit me like a thunderbolt. Not the way you'd picture a betrayal unfolding. There were no obvious signs, no lipstick stains on my shirts, no secretive whispers over late-night calls, no slow drift pulling us apart. If anything, Lorraine seemed closer than ever in those final months. Her kisses lingered a little longer each morning. Her laughter rang out of my terrible puns like it did when we were kids. Her hand found mine again during quiet drives. It felt like we were rediscovering something precious. I thought we'd turned a corner. I couldn't have been more mistaken. The truth didn't crash down in a blaze of drama. No sobbing apologies, no shouting matches. It came quietly, almost casually, one night over dinner. Lorraine set her fork down, looked at me with eyes I couldn't read. Not shame, not sorrow, maybe something like release. "Walter, I got something to say," she began, reaching for my hand. "I've been with someone else. I can't keep pretending anymore." That was it. The moment my life cracked wide open, I didn't scream, didn't break down. I just sat there, numb, like my soul had left my body. My hand slipped from hers, lifeless. Her words sank in, clear as day, but my heart wouldn't let them stick. "What?" I mumbled, the only sound I could muster. She squeezed my fingers, soft, almost pitying. "It started 6 months ago. I didn't plan it. It just happened like a stumble on the sidewalk, like rain ruining a picnic." I stared at her, hunting for the woman I'd vowed my life to. She was still there, same face, same voice, but she felt like someone I'd never met. She didn't beg me to forgive her, didn't even say sorry, she just laid it out. She was leaving. And then she did. No pleading, no theatrics, a bag waited by the door, packed and ready, invisible to me until that second. I didn't ask where she was headed, and she didn't volunteer it. She stood, pressed a kiss to my forehead, actually kissed me, and murmured, "You're a good man, Walter. You always have been." Then she walked out. I stayed at that table for hours, staring at a plate of food I couldn't touch, the cold seeping into everything. For weeks, I moved through life like a ghost. Work, home, an empty bed, repeat. I didn't tell a soul, couldn't bear the sympathetic stares, the awkward condolences. My marriage was dead, and I didn't even get a fight for it. She decided for us both, and I let her go, or tried to. Months later, when I finally started patching myself together, she came back, expecting me to welcome her like nothing had changed. I'll never forget seeing her again. It was one of those nights when the silence didn't scream so loud anymore. I'd just gotten home, kicked off my boots, poured a whiskey I hadn't touched. Then came the knock, steady, familiar, slicing through me like a blade. For a moment, I couldn't move. No one dropped by since she'd left. Friends had faded, their invites dried up, their concern replaced by distance. But this knock, it was hers. I opened the door, and there she stood, Lorraine, same hazel eyes, same auburn hair she'd always cursed for frizzing, same slight tilt in her stance. But her face, it was different, lost, uncertain. I'd rehearsed 1,000 things to say if this day came. Slam the door, demand answers. Ask if he'd dumped her like she'd dumped me. Instead, I just stared. "Walter," she said, voice soft, cautious. Hi. Like we were passing acquaintances. I didn't let her in, didn't budge. She faltered, then breathed out. "Can we talk?" Every fiber of me wanted to say no, to shut her out, retreat to my drink, erase her from my night. But there was a crack in her tone, regret. Maybe I stepped aside. She walked in like she still belonged, glancing at the kitchen as if she'd see our old table. That night, she'd shattered me. I shut the door, arms crossed. "What do you want, Lorraine?" She swallowed, eyes dropping. For once, she looked unsure. "I made a mistake," she said, voice trembling. I shot through me. She saw it, rushed on. I didn't see it then. I thought I needed more, but it wasn't real. "Walter, none of it." She paused, eyes shutting briefly. "He wasn't who I thought. I thought I'd found happiness, but I ruined the only thing that mattered." Her voice broke. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I was drained. I rubbed my face. "So what? You show up after months and expect me to fix this? Forget it." She looked up, and I saw it. She'd hoped I'd still be that guy, the one who'd take her back no matter what. That guy was gone. "You left, Lorraine. You torched everything and walked away. Now you think you can waltz back in?" Her eyes blinked fast, fighting tears. I don't know where else to go. That hit hard. Not pity, but memory. This house, this life, it had been her safe place once, and she'd thrown it away. I stepped back, opened the door, then figured it out. She stared, stunned, like she'd expected me to cave, but she didn't fight, just nodded, slipped past me into the dark. I didn't watch her leave. I shut the door. Sleep didn't come that night. Her face kept flashing back, lost, broken, like she'd finally grasped what she'd done. She'd spent months chasing a lie, only to crash too late. And now she wanted me back? Part of me burned with anger, but mostly I felt empty. She'd gutted me when she left. Those endless nights, staring at her empty side of the bed, wondering if she even cared. I'd clawed my way out of that hole, and now she wanted in again. I sat on the couch, clutching that watered-down whiskey, the glass dug into my palm. It wasn't just tonight haunting me. It was every moment that led here. I'd loved her with all I had, trusted her blindly, and she decided over a quiet dinner that I wasn't enough. She'd walked out without a tear. Yet here she was, months later, claiming regret. I wanted those words to heal something, to close the wound. They didn't, because she'd still left, and that was a scar I couldn't erase. Morning came, sluggish and heavy. I barely slept, dragged myself up, went through the routine, shower, coffee, staring at my phone. Should I tell someone? Friends who'd watched me crumble, who'd said I was better off. They'd moved on. I was still debating when it rang. I knew it was her, didn't want to hear it, but my hand moved anyway. Walter, her voice came, soft, tentative. I didn't speak. She breathed. I know I don't deserve this. Can we meet? Against every instinct, I said yes. Curiosity, maybe, or some buried need for closure. 2 days later, I stood outside a small cafe. Cold wind bit my hand in my pockets. She'd picked it, neutral turf. She sat there, same lost look. I walked in, sat across her, arms folded. You wanted to talk? She nodded, hesitant. I don't know where to begin. Try the start, I said, flat cold. She exhaled. He seemed perfect, promises, excitement. But it fell apart fast. He was controlling, jealous. I wasn't me anymore, and he didn't care. Her voice dropped. I thought I'd chosen right. I was wrong. I leaned forward. For months, I woke up wondering if you'd come back. When you didn't, I rebuilt from nothing. You don't get it, Lorraine. You chose to leave, packed your bags, kissed me, and walked out. You can't undo that. She flinched. Eyes wet, I know. Silence swallowed us. The cafe hummed, but we were a void. She nodded, shaky. I understand. I stood good. As I turned, she whispered, Did you ever hate me? I stopped, didn't face her. No, it was true. Not hate, just exhaustion. I walked out, kept walking, not home, not anywhere, just moving. Memories flooded back. Meeting her at a party, her laugh lighting up the room. That love didn't vanish overnight. She'd pulled away long before she said it. Let me love a ghost. That was the betrayal I couldn't forgive. Not the affair, but the lie. I stopped by a park. A phone rang again. Her mother. I hesitated, hadn't spoken since the split, but something made me answer. Walter. Her voice cracked, tears streaked. Is everything okay? A pause. Lorraine's in a hospital. She's asking for you. My world tilted. After everything, why me? Why was I even considering it? I should have said no. She wasn't my burden. But an hour later, I stood outside the hospital. I went in, sterile air stung my nose. Room 214. She lay there, frail, tubes in her arm, monitor beeping, no makeup, hair tangled. She turned, eyes raw. Walter, she rasped. I shut the door. You look awful. A weak laugh. Feel worse. I didn't sit. What's this? She shifted, wincing. I was wrong. You keep saying that. She whispered. I can't fix it. No, you can't. Her eyes glistened. I dreamed of this, making her feel my pain. But she wasn't that woman anymore. Just someone lost, broken. I didn't hate her. That hit me hard. Why am I here? She trembled, sipping water. I needed to see you to say I'm sorry. I laughed, bitter. That's supposed to help? No, she said. I lost myself. Not you, but it was never about me, was it? A tear fell. She shook her head. I stood. That's what lets me walk away. I left. No look back. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Outside, the sky darkened. She was in there, facing her choices. Not my weight anymore. She'd been my everything. Then she'd burned it down. I'd spent too long asking why. A friend called later. Drinks? I smiled. Yeah, driving away. I left her behind for good.